So in our previous sessions, we started discussion about the procurement configurations, where we discussed about the document type of purchasing document, how we can configure the document types, new document types for the internal purchase orders, internal purchasing documents, as well as external purchasing documents, right? Then we also discuss about the number ranges of purchasing documents, field selection, which field should be mandatory, which field should be optional, which fields should be display mode. That also we discussed. Then we discussed about the item category related configuration. We already had complete STO scenarios, right? So during STO scenarios, we discussed about the STO configuration as well, how we are actually defining our shipping points, and then how the customer master mentioned in our receiving locations, receiving plant, right? All that configurations we have delivery type configurations and everything we have discussed during our STO procurement process. Then how the purchasing documents can be linked to each other. For example, if my PR document type is this, then system should allow us to create a purchase order of this document type only. So how that linking is possible, that also we discussed, right? Now let us start with a very important topic, that is release strategy. We'll see the account assignment category later. We'll discuss about the release strategy. Release strategy, pricing procedure, message determination. These are three most important topics in consulting, right? So let us start with the release strategy. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So what is release strategy? What is meant by release strategy? How we are configuring release strategies, and on what basis we are actually configuring the release strategy, that we will discuss. Release strategy is nothing but your approval process for purchasing documents. Release strategy is nothing but your approval process for purchasing documents, right? What is meant by approval process? A simple example will take it. We are working in a corporate environment, right? We want leave. If I want to leave, what happen? I need to apply a leave on a portal or in a system, right? As soon as I apply the leave, it will go for my supervisor for approval, right? Then supervisor will approve it. Then only we are allowed to take the leave, right? That means if the employee is doing some activities, that activity has to be approved by his supervisor or manager. Why? To have a better control and to have better discipline in the work environment, correct? Similarly, in purchasing, if any purchasing activities happened, it has to be monitored, reviewed, and approved by a certain people. If any purchasing activities happen, it has to be monitored, reviewed, and approved by certain people, right? If I have 20 members of team and I segregate a team that these three people are going to purchase this type of materials, these three people are going to purchase for this region, right? So I segregated different teams. Now, if teams are doing independently, then what happens? The manager or his boss is not actually is not able to track what is going on, right? At the second time, at the second thoughts is that these purchasing documents are very crucial, correct? This is having very huge amount sometimes, and it will have the direct impacts on our financial statements, correct? So before proceeding or before sharing any information to the external sources, for example vendors and all, the purchasing document has to be approved internally. The purchasing document has to be approved internally. So how this internal purchasing approval process will be set up, on what basis it will be set up, that we'll discuss during release strategy. Am I clear with the release strategy introduction? What is release strategy? Release strategy is nothing but the approval process for our purchasing document. This approval process can be set up for the internal purchasing document, can be set up for our external purchasing documents. Internal purchasing documents, nothing but purchase requisition. External purchasing documents, nothing but purchase order, contracts, scheduling agreements, service entry sheet. Why those are external purchasing documents? Because those are sharing with our external parties, suppliers and all, right? So, am I clear with the release strategy?
Yes.
Okay. Then, release strategy can be defined by two ways. One is release strategy without classification. And second is release strategy with classification. Okay. Let us see what is the difference between release strategy without classification, release strategy with classification. So release strategy without classification is used for internal purchasing document. Used only for internal purchase documents. Okay. On the other hand, release strategy with classifications can be used internal as well as external purchasing document. Right. So release strategy without classification can be used only for internal purchasing document. On the other hand, release strategy with classification can be used internal as well as external purchasing documents. Okay. Why? So why we are saying that it is possible only for internal and it is possible internal as well as external? Let's see. In release strategy without classification, item level release is possible. Okay. In release strategy without classification, item level release possible. What is meant by item level release? We will discuss. In release strategy with classifications, item level release possible for internal documents as well as header level release possible for internal as well as external document. Okay. Understand this one. So in release strategy without classification, only internal purchasing documents can be considered because system will allow only item level release, not at the header level release. Release strategy with classification, we can apply for internal purchasing documents as well as external purchasing documents because item level release is also possible and header level release is also possible. Right? Now let us see this one. What is the item level release and header level release? Let me open a SAP. So let me open a purchase requisition. Sorry. I'm just taking one example. So I'm creating a purchase requisition, right? There is office chairs in the purchase requisitions, then tables and stationery. If I set up item level release strategy, that means item level approval process, each this item, office chair, tables and stationery will go for approval. Office chair will go for approval separately. Tables will go for approvals separately. Stationery will go for approvals separately. So each line items will require an approval. So we can see the release strategy tab here at the item level. And user has to approve each and every line item, right? Then only that line item is allowed to convert into the RFQ or purchase order. You got it? This is called as an item level release strategy, and this item level release strategy is only possible for a purchase requisition. Got it? Item level release strategy is only possible for a purchase requisition, because purchase requisition is internal document. If you have 10 line items, currently manager thought that okay, out of 10 only we need 8, so he will approve 8 line items. So those 8 line items can be converted into a purchase order. 2 line items he can hold it. This is a internal purchasing document, so that the reason item level release is possible. On the other hand, purchase order is not an internal document. It is an one minute. sorry. So the purchase order is an external purchasing document. It has to be shared with our suppliers, right? So we cannot send a half purchase orders to our suppliers, right? If we have to send something, we have to send it fully or we cannot send. So the purchase order has to be approved fully. And if any external purchasing document has to be approved fully, then the release strategy will be at header level. That means if you are approving, that means you are approving the entire purchase order, right? If you have any comments or suggestions, or you do not want any particular matters, you need to remove that particular line item from your purchase order. And then only the approver can approve it, right? So whatever active line items are there, all those line items has to be approved by the approver. That is header level release strategy. And this header level release strategy will be possible for internal purchasing document, that is means purchase requisitions, as well as external purchasing document, that means purchase order, contract, scheduling agreement, service entry sheets and all, right? So this is an item level release strategies and header level release strategy. Am I clear with this till now?
Yes.
Good. Now,
Mubin, can you please repeat one more time?
sure. So release strategy. Release strategy is nothing but the approval process for our purchasing documents. Okay. So we can set up the approval process for our purchasing documents. For example, purchase requisition, purchase order, contract, scheduling agreements, and service entry sheets. Right? RFQ as well. So what is meant by approval process? As soon as any purchasing document is created, it has to be monitored, reviewed, and approved by our supervisors. Right? The one who actually managing the complete operations. So they have to review and approve that purchasing documents. If they approved it, then only the next step is possible. That means sharing that purchase order with our suppliers or converting that purchase requisition into a purchase order. That is possible. If it is not approved, that means this document is not ready for a next action. Right? Now we have two types of configurations. One is release strategy without classification, release strategy with classification. Release strategy without classification is applicable only for internal purchasing documents, right? Because the release strategy without classification allows system to have the approval process at item level. So each line item has to be approved one by one. Each line items will go for approvals and it has to be approved. That is our possible with item level release, right? On the other hand, release strategy with classification. This can be set up for internal purchasing documents as well as external purchasing documents, right? Internal purchasing document means PR and external purchasing document means our PO and all, right? So here with release strategy with classifications, it is possible to set up the release strategy at item level, okay? And it is possible to set up a release strategy for internal as well as header level, external purchasing accounts, right? So if you want, the approval process can be set up with release strategy with classifications at item level. For each individual will go for approvals. That is also possible, as well as we can set up the release strategy at header level. That means the entire purchasing document has to be approved. Then only the next action is possible. So that is also possible in the configuration, right? With classification. Maximum we are using, or any company are using release strategy with class. 99.9% are using actually release strategy with classification, because it allows us to configure release strategy for internal documents at line item levels, as well as header level release possible for internal as well as external documents, right? So all possible scenarios can be achieved with release strategy with classification, right? So maximum people are using release strategy with classification. Clear till now?
Yes, Mubin.
Good. Now, on our YouTube channel, we already I have already uploaded a video where we have discussed about the release strategy for a purchase requisition, right? So what we'll do, we'll do the configuration for release strategy for a purchase order. right? So it will help us to understand both the scenarios. Okay, you can follow our YouTube videos for the purchase requisition related configurations. If you learn purchase order related configurations, similar configuration will be applicable for purchase requisition. Similar configuration will be applicable for contracts, RFQ, schedule agreements, everyone having same type of configuration. Correct? So let us do the configuration for a purchase order. Okay. So what is meant by purchase order? What is meant by purchase order?
Legal document to send the vendor
Okay, it's a
for
legal
a
to buy a service or a material, right? And
right.
we are sharing this document with our supplier. Who is supplier? Supplier is an external party, right? That means purchase order is an external document, right? If it is an external document, that means we have to use release strategy with classification, right? So purchase order is an external document. So only header level release is possible. Only header level release is possible, right? Now, if you want header level release procedure, that means we have to use release strategy with classification, right? Correct. So purchase order is an external document. That means only header level release is possible. As we want header level release, that means we have to use release strategy with classification. Got it? Now, before starting with classification, right? We want to understand how our approval process has to be set up. Okay. Sometimes business use approval process, sometimes business use delegation request, delegation process. Okay, both are same terms, right? If they say approval process or they say delegation process or delegation request, it means the same thing, that is approval process for a purchasing documents, right? So if I am creating a purchase order, on what basis it should go for approvals, to whom it should go for approvals, that we need to decide. We means actually this has to be decided by the purchasing departments. The purchasing department has to come with a plan. They need to understand for business scenarios, and they need to provide the proper process flow and delegation metrics for the purchasing documents on what is the criteria, okay, and to whom it should go based on the criteria. These are the two things they have to provide, and they have to document this complete information in their purchasing policy, right? If the information is mentioned in the purchasing policy, then only consultant is authorized to set up this strategy. You cannot blindly set up the strategy. If someone raise a request that we want to modify the approval process, or we want to introduce a new approval process, we need to tell them first, go discuss with your management, come up with a complete plan, delegation plan, and maintain this or set up this complete plan in your procurement policy. Once they have completed this process, then only we will redesign the systems or we will implement this in the system, right? So this is very crucial things, right? So proper documentations and everything should be there. Auditing point of view, they may raise questions why we have these many approvals and all, right? So whenever that is a business process now, we just discussed. Now whenever we want to configure the release strategy or approval process, right? So there are two things. One is criteria, right? what is the criteria that the purchasing document should go for approval, right? Then to whom it should go, right? That means who are the approvers. Right? So these are the two important factors we have in the release strategy, right? Then let us start discussion about the release strategy with classification. So release strategy with classifications we need to use for purchasing documents, right? Purchase orders and all. Now, when we say with classification, that means there is a classifications related setups available for the release strategy with classification, right? Classification related setup available for a release strategy. What is meant by classifications? A classification can be used for multiple purpose. We have release strategy related classifications. We have material classifications. We have batch classifications. We have variant classifications, right? We have supplier classification. A lot of classifications are available. What is meant by classifications? In classification, system allows us to create a characteristics. Create a characteristics. What is characteristics? Characteristics is nothing but your criteria. What are the different criteria, right? That is nothing but your characteristics. You are defining your criteria as a characteristics. Okay. For example, if my purchase order should go for approval, the amount should be more than 1,000 rupees. Okay. That 1,000 rupees, more than 1,000 rupees is a criteria for me. Correct. So where we are defining that criteria, we are defining that criteria in a characteristics, right? The purchasing group should be P01, then only it should go for approval. Then the purchasing group is a criteria, right? That is nothing but a characteristics for me. Got it? So in classifications, we will have the characteristics, and then if all these characteristics satisfied, then only my approval should be triggered. That means we have to combine all those characteristics in one item, that is called as a class. So second step is a class, right? So what we in any classifications, whether it is release strategy classifications or material classifications or batch classifications, these two steps will be there. First, we'll define the criteria, then we combine all those criteria into one class, and then we are using that class for a future configuration, right? Now, let us decide our criteria. For example, if ABC Manufacturing want to set up a release strategy or approval process, what should be their criteria? So let's say an example. If purchase order document type is equal to NB, okay, purchase order value is between 1,000 to 10,000, okay, and purchase group will be PG1, then only it should go for approval. So I have three criteria, so three characteristics I need to create, right? So there are three criteria. One is purchasing order document type, purchase order value, and purchasing group, right? So if these are the three criteria, then only it should go for approval, right? So these are the three criteria. Then what happens? We need to, because these three characteristics we are creating, so somewhere we need to bind that. Somewhere we need to club those all three characteristics under one item. This is called a class. So we'll create a class ZPO class something, where we'll mention this class nothing but holding all the information of the characteristics purchase order document type, purchase order value and purchase group. Right? So this class bind all these characteristics. Am I clear till now?
Yes, Movin bhai.
Okay. Now the actual configuration will start where we will define the release group. So release group is just a 2-digit code. Okay. This release group will call our class. This release group will call our class. So for example, if my release group is R1, so we'll mention in the system that this release group will call our ZPO class. Okay. So indirectly, when we are saying we are calling release group R1, we are asking system to read the information of ZPO class, and what ZPO class will do? ZPO class will read these characteristics, criteria. Right? So it's just a code. Then we have something called release indicator or release codes. So how many approvals should be there? Release codes is nothing but the approval people who are going to approve. So if I'm creating a purchase order, it has to be approved by X person or Y person, right? So who are those X and Y persons? What is the designations and all? Those codes we are defining here. So the codes will be 2-digit code, for example, C1. C1 will be plant manager, HOD, I'll mention, or supervisor. C2, plant manager. C3, senior manager. C4, general manager. And C5, CEO. So these are the different approvers in our approval process. Okay, we'll reconnect again. Okay, so we decided that we'll have these many approval people or positions, right? C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, right? Plant supervisor, plant manager, then senior manager, or we can say director. This is a director. Then general manager and CO, right? So these are the approvers we have, correct? So these people should be there in the approval process, right? Now there is a release indicator. Release indicator is nothing but traffic signals, whether it is red or green. That means that purchasing document is released or blocked, right? So we can mention Y means blocked, Z means released. Okay, so if there is an indicator for the purchasing document as Y, that means this purchase order is not yet approved, it is blocked. If the indicator is Z, that means this purchase order is approved, right? So these indicators we need to set up, right? And then finally there is a release strategy configuration. What is meant by release strategy? We are defining that if this criteria meets, then to whom it should go for the approval, right? So we will define the strategy as S1. So in strategy S1, what we mention? So these are the criteria. This criteria can be defined with different values for different strategies. So these are the criteria. This is the class, then release group, release course, release indicator, release strategy. So in release strategy, we mentioned, okay, my strategy is S1. When S1 strategy will trigger, if my purchasing document type is NB, okay, purchase order value is 1000 to 10,000, then and purchasing group is PG1, then only S1 release strategy should trigger. And if S1 release strategy triggered, then it has to be approved by two level, C1 and C2. First C1 has to approve, then C2 has to approve, then only the purchase documents can be considered as approved. Am I clear? What I'm saying? If my release strategy is S1, then these conditions has to be satisfied. Purchasing document type NB, purchase order value is 1000 to 10,000, and purchasing group is PG1. If that condition is satisfied, then it will go for two level of approvals, right? Then there will be another release strategy, that is S2 release strategy. For S2 release strategy, we mentioned if my document is NB, if my purchase order value is more than 10,000 or 10,001 to 1 lakh. All right. And if the purchasing group is PG1, then it should go for 3 level of approvals. Right. Then the final. If my release strategy is S3, then the purchasing document is NB. The amount will be more than 1 lakh. And purchasing group is PG1 or PG2 or PG3, then it should go for 5 level of approval. I'm just giving an example. Okay. Right? So it has to be approved by these many people. So this is our strategy or approval process decided. Who will provide this approval process? Business will provide this one. So this is the conditions. Based on this one, this has to be triggered. So business will provide this information to us, right? So this is called the release strategy configuration, right? Am I clear till now what we are doing?
Yes.
Right. So let us configure this setup in our system. Class and characteristics are not the configuration. Class and characteristics are the master data. So every client we have to create this class and characteristics. The rest of all will be the configuration. So let us go to the SAP. So what we need to do now? We need to create our classes characteristics first. So what are the characteristics we have? We have purchase order document type, purchase order value, and purchase group. So 3 characteristics are there. So let us create a characteristics. We can go to the SPRO, SAP reference IMG. Then we'll go to the material management. We'll go to the purchase order, purchasing. Then if I want to set up a release strategy for purchase requisitions, I will go to the purchase requisition node. And here we have option called release procedure. In purchase requisitions, you can see without classification, with classification, both options are there. right? If I want to set up a release strategy for purchase order or any other documents, I'll go to that respective node. And for this particular node, you can see release procedure for purchase orders. You can see there is no without classification related nodes. Everything will be with classification. And we have option called here edit characteristics, edit class. You can use these options to create your characteristics or change your characteristics, right? Or you can directly use transaction code CT04. I'll show you. If I click on this one, it will take us to the characteristic screen. If I go to the transaction code CT04, it will take us to the same screen. So you can go by SPRO node or you can use T code as CT04. Okay. Now, here we'll define our characteristics, right? So what is my first characteristic? Purchase order document type. As this is custom one, I'll just mention Z in front of characteristics name, right? So this is my characteristics names. I'll click on the create option here because this characteristic is not available. If available, I can use existing characteristics. So it's not available, so I'm going to use my, I'm creating with Z, right? So I'll give the descriptions now. The document type will be 2-digit or 4-digit character, right? So I'll mention here what is the data type. So it can be characteristics, currency, date, numeric, and time. So for me, it's NB, UB, these are all the characters, right? So I'll choose characteristics. What is the maximum size? 4. If you are not providing this, that is also fine. System will take it. Once we provide the table name and field name, system will take it from there. Okay. So currently what happened? I just mentioned char and 4. Now, are we going to use a single value as a characteristics or multiple value? For examples, my criteria is only holding document type NB, or it can hold document type NB or UB or FO. There might be multiple documents we want to set up for the configuration, right? So if there are multiple documents, we need to choose the options multiple values because we want to maintain multiple values for these characteristics, right? So maximum times we are selecting these multiple values options. So it will hold single value as well as multiple values. Descriptions, if you want to give the descriptions in different language, you can give it. Then we'll go to the additional field, right? For us, we know that this characteristic is nothing but the purchase order document type. We should need to give some link to the system to understand this purchase order document type is nothing but this particular field, right? So that informations we need to pass in the form of table name and field. This table name is nothing but system is expecting we should provide the communication structure details for these characteristics, right? As this is related to the purchase order, we are going to use a communication structure CEKKO. So I'll show you. CEKKO is the communication structures. I'm using SE11 transaction code to check the communication structure. So I'll go to the CEKKO. EKKO is our table for the purchase order. Just added C, so it will be a communication structure for a purchase order. So if you see, if I open this one, it will show me the list of the fields which can be used to set up the release strategy for a purchase order. So you can see here, communication release strategy determination purchasing documents. So these are the number of fields we can use to set up the purchase order related release strategy. That means these many characteristics we can create. Correct? Now, what is our characteristics? It's a document type. Right? So this is nothing but order type, purchasing. And the field name is BSART. So we need to copy this one. I need to mention, okay, my communication structure is CEKKO. My field name will be BSART. I'll pass these informations. So all these header informations will get copied from there itself. And this way we are mentioning when we use Z enter Z underscore purchase order document type characteristic. That means we are asking system to go and read the table CEKKO and field BSART. Got it? Am I clear?
Yes,
No.
Moving by.
Okay, good. So let me save these characteristics. So the first characteristics we created. Sorry. So the first characteristic we created. Now next. What is the next characteristic? Purchase order value. So let us go to the CT04 again. Then purchase order value is the second criteria. Z underscore sorry, first we need to click on the create option here. Okay, sorry. Let me slash CT04 Z underscore purchase order value, right? So this is the characteristics. I'm going to click on the create. This is the characteristics name. So this will be my description. Are we going to use multiple values? Yes, I'm going to use multiple values. And this will be, okay, I'll come this one later. Let me go to the additional data. Okay. So the purchase order value is nothing but the combination structure CEKKO and the field. Let's see what is the field for the purchase order value. I think NATWR. Total net order value GNETW. So this is the field. The field is GNETW. Right. So if I press enter, system will take us to this one where system will automatically copy the currency information, the number of characters informations. Only it is asking currency. So I'm giving currency and I'm mentioning because I'm going to provide from and to values, right? That means I'm going to mention the values like if the value is between 1000 to 10,000, that means 1001, 1002, that 99,999 up to this one, right? So I'm giving a range here. So if I'm giving a range, I need to select these options, interval values allowed. That means I'm giving the intervals. So we need to select this option, interval values allowed, right? So these options will select it and save it. So this is the second characteristics we created. Right? Then what is the third? Purchasing group. So per G underscore purchase group is the characteristics. Let me click on create. I'll go to the additional data. CEKKO is the combination structure for our purchase orders, and my field name is purchase group. Let's see what is the purchase group field. Here, the field name is EKGRP. I'll take this one, I'll enter it. So all the data will be gets copied. You can see I'll mention multiple values and just save it. So my third characteristics is also created. Right? So I created a characteristics. So first step is completed. What is next? I need to create a class. How I can create a class? I can use configurations, or I can use directly T code CL02 or CL03, anything. So CL02, I'll go class, or you can use this option edit class. It will take you to the same screen. Right, so I'll go to the CL02. What is my class name? ZPO underscore class. This is my class. This class is going to be used for what purpose? This class is going to be used for release strategy purpose. So I will select number 032, which is related to the release strategy. So we are mentioning this system that this ZPO class is going to be used for release strategy. Right? Press enter. Not yet created. Let me create it. So I'll just click on create options. It will ask me the descriptions. The descriptions will be the same, ZPO class. So then I'll directly go to this characteristics fields and I'll mention how many characteristics are going to be used under this class. So I'll mention systems that these 3 characteristics will be used under this class. See, so whatever informations we have provided, all information gets copied. So that means we are binding or clubbing all these 3 characteristics under one class. Am I clear till now? Hello?
Yes.
Good. So we created a class now. ZPO underscore class. This is the class we created. Now, let us see the configurations. So I'll go to the SPR again. Just close other windows, not required. Okay. Now I'll go to the define release procedure for purchase orders. If I click on this option, you can see there is these many nodes: release group, release code, release indicator, release strategies. So I'll go to the release groups. So in release group, I'll define my release group. So I'll click on new entries. I'll mention my release group name is R1. My class is ZPO underscore class. So what happened? We are indirectly asking systems if I'm using R1 anywhere in our next configuration. That means I'm asking system to call this class, to read this class, right? Release group for EO. Got it? And just click on save. So the first class and character, first we created the characteristics, we clubbed into a class, and then we assigned this class to our release group. So first step is done. Then there is a release codes. So we need to mention how many release codes are there. That means approvers are there. So I'll click on the new. I'll mention if my group is R1, C1 is the first code, and C1 is nothing but what is meant by C1? Plant supervisor. Right? Then R1, C2. C2 is nothing but what? Plant manager. Then R1, C3. C3 is nothing but director. R1, C4. C4 is nothing but GM. R1, C5. C5 is nothing but EO. Right? So we are mentioning all our approvals information and we are assigning some codes to them, C1, C2, C3, like some codes we are assigning. We can use any codes, even you can use numbers as well, possible, right? Save it. So we created the release codes. Then we'll go to the release indicators. In release indicators, we will mention systems that if my release indicator is B, which means blocked. Okay. The description is blocked. If the release indicator is R, that means it is released. So I'm mentioning based on this one. If R means released, so I'm giving these two traffic signals to the systems mentioning there are B and R. If indicator is B, that means it is blocked. If R means it is released. Okay. So these two indicators we created. Then we'll define our release strategies. I'll go to the release strategy. I'll go to the new entries. I'll mention if my release group is R1. So based on this R1, system will read my class. My strategy name is S1, strategy 1. Okay. How many approvers required for the strategy 1? I believe 2 or 3. 2 approvers are required, right? C1 and C2. So I need only C1 and C2 for strategy 1, right? If I go to the prerequisite, I need to mention these checkboxes. So always select the last checkboxes, combination checkboxes. Based on these combinations, system will give us these statuses. See, if both approvers not approved, the status will be blocked. If first level, that C1 has a plant supervisor approved it, but plant manager not approved, still it will block. If both people approved, then only the process will be, or the document will be showing as a released, right? So this is correct. We'll mention it here. Then classifications, we can mention classification here, or we can, there is a different T code, we can use that one. I'll mention it here directly. One time I'll mention it here. For the next one, I'll mention with the different T code. So my document type is NB. My net order value is 1000 to 10,000 EUR. Right, 1000 to 10,000 EUR. And purchasing group is PG1. If I want additional one or 2 or 3 criteria, because we have selected multiple values, we can use that. Click on this plus icon. I can mention if my purchasing group is PG1 or PG2, any of these. If my purchase order value is between 1000 to 10,000, and if the document type is NB, then this S1 strategy should be triggered. Got it? So I saved it. Let us simulate this one. So if it is configured correctly, I'll click on the release simulate. Currently, if you see, for simulation of the release group R1 strategy S1, currently there are 2 approvers, C1 and C2. Nothing has approved. So what I'll do, I'll just click OK here. Sorry, simulate release here. And currently what happens? See, currently the release approval is pending with C1, right? And status is blocked. So I'll just select this C1. I'll set release now. The C1 has approved. Now the approval is pending with the C2. So if I select this one, I'll check if both has approved, then only it will show release. So this is actually internal simulations or testing. We can do it here, how it is working. So I'll just save it now. Similarly, I will set up the release strategy S2, R1, S2. This is nothing but the strategy 2. And for strategy 2, how many approvers are there? We mentioned we need 3 approvers, C1, C2, C3. Right? Then we'll check these below options. Based on this one, it will give the correct combinations. Then I'll go here. See, if 3 people not approved, blocked. If only first person approved, both, but rest of the 2 not approved, blocked. First 2 approved, but third one is not approved, blocked. If all 3 people approved, then only the status will be released. Right? So we can have the different combinations. The classification value we will maintain with different keywords. I'll not maintain it here. Right? So I define my strategy S2 as well, S1 and S2. So I'll just go to the S3, R1, S3, that is strategy T. C1, C2, C3, C4, and C5. These are the approvals, right? I'll go here, I'll choose this below triangle. Am I audible?
Yes.
So I selected all these below triangles. Now let's see, release status is if I click, if all not approved, blocked. If only first person approved, blocked. If first 2 approved, but rest of not approved, blocked. If only 3 people approved, blocked. If first 4 approved, blocked. If all are approved, then only released. So everything is perfect, right? I can click on the classifications. I'll maintain my classification later, save it. So what we did till now, what we did, we have defined our 3 strategies and relevant setup, release group, release indicators, and release codes we used in these strategies, right? Now, as I mentioned, I can maintain my classification value here in the configurations, but most of the times our business user doesn't have the configuration access. So what happens? We define our configurations or this classification value we can maintain with another transaction code called CL20N. So let's go to the CL20N. I'll mention my release group is R1. My strategy is S2. So ZPO class is the class. And I can mention my value here. If my document type is NB, if my net order value is 1 lakh or 10,001 to 1 lakh. And if purchasing group is PG1 or PG2 or PG3. So, right? Similarly, business user can maintain for S3 release strategy. So this is a different T codes to maintain the values NB greater than equal to 1. So greater than symbol I'll use greater than 1 lakh. Purchasing group PG1. PG2. Save it. So this is what we have defined for release strategy. Let us test if it is works. Let me create a purchase order. ME21N. Am I clear till now?
Yes, Mohin.
Okay. So if you see in purchase orders, I'm using document type NB. I'm giving my vendor name. My purchasing organization EGPO. Purchasing group is PG1. Company code is EG00. So I'm giving 10 quantities. So 10 into 23, how much? It is 230, right? So if it is less than 1000, right? So let's see if there is any release strategy triggered. No, there is nothing is triggered. So let me change the quantity as 100. So 100 into 23 is 2300, which is more than 1000, right? And we have the configuration for the approvals. So you can see here the release strategy option is came now. Here it is system is mentioning if the value of the purchase order is between 1000 to 10,000, if the document type is NB, and if the purchasing group is PG1 or PG2, then the strategy S1 will trigger. The strategy having two approvers, C1 and C2. Currently, the approval is pending with C1. C1 has to approve, then C2 has to approve. Then only the status will change from blocked to released. Right? If I put 1000 as a value, which is more than 10,000, right? So it is 20,000 it is showing. So if I see now, if it is more than 10,000, there will be 3 levels of approval, C1, C2, C3, right? If the total value is more than 1 lakh, now the amount is how much? 2 lakhs. So if it is more than 1 lakh, it has to go for 5 level approval. Let's see. So C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. So our strategy configured correctly. Is it clear? Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Any questions, queries till now?
Repeat, sir.
Which part you want to repeat? Question?
Strategy, sir.
Okay.
Strategy,
Okay.
release strategy.
So if you see in the release strategy, we created a release strategy S1 with the strategy name, and we mentioned how many approvals should use for this strategy. Then we have decided on what basis indicator should be changed. If both has not approved, should be blocked. If only first person approved, blocked. If both have approved, released. Right? Then we have defined our classification as well, where we mentioned this strategy S1 should be triggered only based on this combination. If my document type is NB, the value is between 1000 to 10,000, and if the purchasing group is between PG1 and PG2, then only S1 strategy should trigger. Then if you see the strategy 2, what we mentioned, there are 3 levels of approvals for strategy 2, right? And we mentioned the prerequisite based like this one. If all are not approved, blocked. If only first person approved, blocked. If first 2 approved but third not approved, blocked. If all 3 approved, then only released. And then we decided the classification as well. NB, this between this PG1 and PG2. Right? So if this criteria satisfies, then only this S2 strategy will trigger. Okay. Similarly, we have defined our S3 strategy. Clear? Then what we did, we have created a purchase order to check whether it is working fine or not. So first we mentioned we have created a purchase order having value less than 1000. As for less than 1000, there is no release strategy setup. System has not triggered any approval process. Right? Then we have mentioned a value which is more than 1000 but less than 10,000. More than 1000 and less than 10,000, there is a release strategy S1. System triggered that approvals, and that document is pending only for 2 level of approvals. Then we modified the purchasing order documents or created a new purchasing order documents which is having the value more than 10,000 but less than 1 lakh. So more than 10,000 and less than 1 lakh, we have strategy S2. It is having 3 level of approvals. We saw that there are 3 level of approvals showing in the system for a purchase order. Right? Then we modified the purchase orders which is having more than 1 lakh rupees. And we mentioned if anything which is more than 1 lakh, it should go for 5 level of approvals. So system is showing 5 5 level of approvals. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Good. So let me save this purchase order. So I have saved this purchase order. That means if I'm a purchase engineer or I'm a purchasing user, I'll create a purchase order. But this purchase order will not be shared with our supplier until this purchase order get approved. Got it? We have to obtain all the approvals. So all these people, plant supervisor, plant manager, director, GM and CO has to review these purchase orders. They need to understand we really need these materials or not, right? And can we put this much of amount to purchase these materials? If they are all satisfied, yes, we can purchase this material, then they will provide their approvals. And if only they provide the approvals, then only we can share this purchase order with our suppliers. Clear? Now, if I want to release this purchase order, for example, I'm a plant supervisor, I want to release this purchase order. So there are multiple ways we can release the purchase order. We can have a Fury inbox where system. Okay, so for example, if I'm a plant manager, I want to approve a document, this purchase order. How I know that how many purchasing documents are pending for my approvals? There are a number of ways to check this ones or to approve the documents, and based on business scenarios, we can configure automatically, right? There is a Fury inbox we can provide to them where they can log in with their user credentials. So they will get to know, okay, these many items are pending for their approvals, and this can be achieved through workflow configuration. There will be a workflow related concept we can implement, and we can show the approvals, or we can send an email as well that this purchase order is pending for your approval. So that configuration can be done, right, with the help of workflow consultant. Then there is a T code we can give, and with the roles and authorizations we can control that this person should approve only C1 related purchasing documents, right? So I'll show you the T code as well. So if I want, I will go to the ME28 transaction code. If I go to the ME28, I can pass my release codes, that is release code is C1, release group is R1. So if I want to see how many documents are pending for C1 code pending, C1 code approval, right? I can see it here. So you can see this purchase order 50 is pending for approval. So see, so this way ALV also come, right? And here is options to approve release possible, right? You can click it here. So you are clicking here, that means you are approving these purchasing documents. Now it is approved. So if I refresh my purchase order, you can see the plant supervisor has approved it. Now it is pending with plant manager. What plant manager will do? Plant manager will log in with his user ID and credentials. He will open this transaction code ME28. He'll go to the C2 release code, okay, and check. Here, if you want ALV form, it will come. If you want normal based, that is without ALV, that is also possible. So I'll select this ones. Now the plant manager is approving. So plant manager also approved it. See, plant manager approved. Now it is pending with director. So director will log in with his user ID. He will choose this transaction code ME28. He will provide his release code C3. Execute. So this is without ALV come. He can, if you want, he can see the complete document. He can read that complete purchase orders, and he will just click on release or release plus save, both, right? So same thing. You can see director also approved, right? Still 3 people has approved it, right? It is currently pending with GM. but the status is showing blocked, which is correct. Now let us see. Now C4 is approving. Select the document, release plus C4 approved it. C4 also, that is GM also approved it, still it is blocked. Now the last person, that is CO, C5. So now C5 has approved. So once C5 has approved, then the status is showing as released. That means my purchase order is approved and I can share this purchase order to my supplier. Clear this part? Am I clear with the release strategy configurations?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, Movin bhai.
Right? So with this release strategy, we need to do some developments. For example, my plant manager, supervisor, director, GM, these are the big people, right? They may not have the system access always. Means they might be in meetings or outside the networks or some meetings and everything, right? Means possible. They're busy. So they cannot log into their systems and they cannot approve it. So there are a lot of requirements came where the business is asking, no, I want an application through which I want to approve my purchase orders. Right? That mobile applications can be integrated with our release strategy. Right? He's saying, no, I want to reply to the email, so it should approve. Right? So he will send the reply for a particular email. And if the reply is received by the system, that means he has approved the purchase document. So that email response also we need to consider. Mobile applications will be there, that needs to be integrated, right? Now, if the approval is pending for this person, this person needs to be notified that this document is pending for your approval. Kindly review and approve. So those notification also needs to be sent. So these are the additional some developments we can do with the release strategy, for which we need the workflow consultant and the ABAP consultant. These two people required. And with them we can make release strategy related setup in advanced level. Right? But as a functional consultant, the role is only to configure the release strategy. The rest of the things we need to understand from business what they want it, and then with the help of technical resources, we need to get it done. Right? With ABAP consultant and with workflow consultant, we have to get it done. Right? So this is what we have for the release strategy. We have seen the release strategy for a purchase order. Similar type of configuration is available for the contracts, scheduling agreements, and service entry sheets. The purchase requisition related item level release, header level release, both videos I have uploaded on YouTube. You can review those YouTube videos. If you have any queries, questions, we can check this in our next session. Okay. Till now, any questions, queries on in the release strategy part? It is very important, and in the interview they will ask you about this one. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the question is, how many approvers can we set up? For example, C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. 5 approvers we have set up. So maximum how many approvers I can set up for a purchase order or any purchasing document? The answer is maximum 8 level of approvers we can set up in a standard. Because if you see the configuration, how many boxes we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So maximum 8 release codes we can accommodate in a strategy. That means we can have maximum 8 levels of approvers for a release strategy in a standard, right? If business is asking you, no, we want more approvers, we need to tell them that no, in standard SCP it is not possible to set up more than 8 approvers. On the other hand, if you set up more approvers, then your KPI and turnaround time to convert a purchase order or to approve a purchase order will increase, and it will lead your MRP or the delivery of the materials. It will lead a delay in your delivery of the materials, right? So it is not recommended to have more approvers in the purchase document. You should have the approvers which is really required in the purchase, in the approval process, right? So we need to convince a business that we should not have more than 3 or 4 level of approvals, right? And in standard SAP system will not allow to have the more than 8 level of approvals. So maximum 8 levels approvals we can set up. Clear?
Yes.